in the second conversation for today, this week we just got information from the British Armed Forces that they are looking to recruit soldiers from Commonwealth nations, which include nations like Nigeria, Kenya, Cameroon, Ghana, and also non-African countries like India and Sri Lanka. So the reason I'm talking about this, because I know I will not have spoken about it because this is a yearly thing. I believe the Commonwealth recruits soldiers for the British Armed Forces every year. If I'm correct, I believe it's every year. So and then the soldiers are, they're not really serious soldiers. I don't know if there's unserious soldiers, but they are for roles like musicians and paratroopers and also engineers. So we don't have such a great call for foot soldiers. But the reason I'm speaking about this is that I'm seeing when I saw this news, I checked, and on Twitter, quite a number of people are saying, "Oh, this is could be my cue to leave my country. The economy in Ghana is bad. The economy in Kenya is bad. Nigeria is going through serious economic issues. So we might as well use this as a pretext to leave. Hopefully, once we get in, we can get it, residency, citizenship, the whole normal conversation." So I want to bring to your knowledge things that have happened to Africans over the years when outsiders went to war and told us to join them. So I want to use this opportunity to discuss, look through history, quickly take a look through history and see how African soldiers have fared. Now, this one, they're not real soldiers, but who knows? Are we going to get to the point where we are requesting for more people? Are we going to get to that point? Like I mentioned in the first segment, it looks hopefully we escape this thing, but it looks like Netanyahu's government in Israel is looking for a world war. He's as Netanyahu is looking for a world war. So could this be? Who knows? If something breaks out, are they going to ask Africans to come and fight and die again? Because this is not. If God forbid, we are not going to have a world war. But if something breaks out in the Middle East, if because that looks like the hottest point now. If something breaks out in the Middle East and we have a third world war, we can look through history in the first and second world war. How did Africa fare? So those people who are saying yes, we are going to go and fight, it never turns out well for Africa. In fact, in the First World War, African soldiers are called the forgotten soldiers. And I want you to understand what the First World War did to Africa. Because yes, they were fighting Germany. Germany was the enemy, and they were doing it in. They were supposed to be taking place in the Europe. But let's not forget that Africa was also a center of combat. Let's not forget, because then it was colonial powers using their African colonies to fight their wars. That you countries like Great Britain, France, and others, because they wanted to, they not just they used the opportunities to collect German colonies in Africa. They did, but who fought those wars for them? Africans. It was not our headache. What Germany did is not our problem. We were not part of the whole thing because somebody annoyed them in Europe. They decided to go to war. They agreed within themselves there in Europe to go to war. After agreeing within themselves in Europe to go to war, they blew the trumpet for war and they started fighting. Nobody consulted us. But once the fight broke out, they said Africans come and fight. And who did we fight? We fought each other. Yes, we had European leaders, like European military leaders and officials, lead the charge. But African soldiers went to war. They went to war in countries like Cameroon and collected German territories. They went to war. So you see what I'm saying? Or who suffered the most? We. Hundreds of thousands of our people died during this war. Many more died of starvation because the war disrupted agriculture. If it was not because we were bombing the farms and everything where we get food from, it was also because the able bodied young men who normally would farm to feed their families and encourage the agriculture business, they were drafted into the war. That was not our business. War that did not concern us. War that they used when they took the German territories after Germany's defeat in the First World War, when they took the German colonial territories in Africa, did they give any of them independence? No, it fell into the control of Britain, France, and the rest of them. Africa lost. The same pattern happened during the Second World War. In fact, one of the build up, one of the things that built up to Ghana, because Ghana is the first nation in Africa to gain independence. One of the things that built up to Ghana gaining independence, it was because of the Accra riots. What happened in the Accra riots? So apparently, when they were taking soldiers from Africa to come and fight their war, to fight for European interests, these Africans were told that they will get jobs when they get back after the war. They would also get payments. They would take care of them as veterans of war. Well, when the war was over and they came back, many of these Africans, there were no employment for them. Now I want to use Ghana because that's what we are talking about. They used to call it the Gold Coast then. Imagine. They used to call it the Gold Coast then. Anyway, these veterans, these ex-military personnel, they didn't get the employment they were promised. They didn't get the payments, the money they were promised. They didn't get anything. So they said, you know what, you're going to stage a protest. I'm going to march against this whole thing because we went to war to die for you. Many of our people died for you, and those of us who survived, we did not even get the 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 benefits that were owed them, that many of their contemporaries in Europe and the Americas got. Africans didn't get it. So they went in Ghana, they went to stage a protest to say, no, this shouldn't continue. Give us the jobs, give us the economic benefits, give us the money, give us everything that we deserve for our service. When they went to protest, what happened? The British colonial officers shot them and killed three of their leaders. They opened fire for British interests. And that led to the Accra riots that now set the foundation for the independence of Ghana. Then after Ghana gained independence, other countries across Africa began to gain independence. So those of you who are thinking that you want to go and look for green pastures in in Britain by signing up to go and fight, don't forget your history. Don't forget your history. In the First World War, in the Second World War, Africans were the forgotten soldiers. Instead of thinking to use war and fighting for the British armed forces as a pretext to leave your country, let us bring our heads together now to think of how we are going to build our continent. Like I mentioned 2 weeks ago, when we saw those riots in UK, I mentioned back then things like this are likely to continue because the economic situation in Europe is not even a walk in the park. It's not blissful. It's not, particularly the UK. They've been complaining of terrible economic situations for a long time. So don't think that that place you want to run to is better than your country. Well, you may think it's better than your country, but a lot of people who are there complaining. Several people were even there. I saw some videos online. Um, that was a while ago. These people there, they said they will come back to Africa if they could find transport fare. Transport fare. So because they do not have transport fare, they have to stay there. I'm saying this because don't I know it's normal to think that the economic situation in several countries are way better than that of your country in Africa. Very likely. But in certain instances, some countries in Africa are doing better economically than many of these countries you think are green pastures. So instead of thinking of going to fight somebody else's war that does not concern you, under the pretext of gaining residency or work permit or citizenship because you died for Britain. Your ancestors died though. Don't forget. See how they were treated. They are the forgotten soldiers. So don't when you instead of thinking of that, let us think of how we can bring our heads together to build Africa. Because this is the only place that we can have so much control over. This is the only place we can really call home. Let us think of how can we build Africa to transform the story of Africa so that this our continent can be a good place to live and safe place to live, economic prosperous place to live, not just for the Africans who live here, but even other people who may decide to relocate here because the economy of Africa is doing very well. By the way, I want to ask before I end this segment, I want to ask a question. These Commonwealth soldiers that Britain is trying to recruit so that they can help the British armed forces. What have we in Africa? What have we gained from the Commonwealth? Because many times I try to take a look at this thing. The Commonwealth exists, yes. But what do we gain from being a part of it? I don't even know. If you ask me, that lives in the Commonwealth nation, citizen of a so-called Commonwealth nation, I've not gained anything from Commonwealth, and I don't even see. Each time I've taken a look, I have not seen how the Commonwealth has benefited Nigeria or any country in Africa. If you, I want you to answer that question for yourself. What have you in your country in Africa, what have you gained from being a part of the Commonwealth? Or if you in person, as a person, haven't gained anything, what has your country gained from being a part of the Commonwealth? These are questions we need to begin to ask. And if we look closely and we've not gained anything, and we look at the near future and the distant future, and it doesn't seem that we in Africa are gaining anything from the Commonwealth, is it not now time to begin to ask ourselves, what are we doing in this institution? Is it not time to begin to ask, what are we still doing here? Why are we not leaving? I'll leave you to answer that question for yourself. So tell me what you think. The Commonwealth is looking to recruit soldiers for the British Armed Forces, and a lot of Africans are getting excited at the idea. Let me know what you think about it in the comment section below. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to this channel, and share this video with your friends and families so that this message can reach more people across Africa as we are in such a critical time. This is a very existential time for Africa to build itself so that we can compete on a global stage, because the wealth, the prosperity, and the success of Africa right now more than ever is needed. We're in a very existential moment.